This time we're talking to Merritt Holly, the superintendent out in Leroy. Uh, there's some changes coming in how classes are conducted, and I also thought we'd catch up with him on the capital project that's being planned. So, Merritt, thank you for joining us.
Howard, thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
Good. So, first of all, just give us you're planning to go back to full time in class uh, study. Uh, just tell us about that plan, how it's being rolled out, and where we're at.
Yeah, thanks. We've been in a hybrid learning model since the start of the school year. We were one of larger district in that mix in the county, and we've been going 2 days of in person a week with on Monday and Tuesday with our Jello kids, and then Thursday and Friday with our WACA. Splitting those kind of somewhat equally, and then Wednesday's been a remote day for our students K-12. Starting March 3rd, this upcoming Wednesday, our Jello kids will be going now 3 days a week on a cycle, and then the WACA kids the following week on the 10th of March will do 3 days. So we're ramping up a little bit more with 3 days a week with our students from there. The big conversation, though, as you're aware too, Howard, of what's happening around is the districts in Monroe County, obviously Erie County, your larger districts, and even Batavia and us. And Byron Burgeon at the high school level here in our county are, trying to make a push to get back to 5 days a week. And the stumbling block for many of our districts, that are a little bit larger in size is space, and the 6 feet social distance is causing that issue for many of our schools right now. So we have a target date of April 6th. We would like to be back. That's our estimated date to come back full time on that. And hopefully we see a major change in the social distancing guidelines to help our schools in doing that.
What guidelines do you think need to be changed, or how would you modify them if you were, czar on this?
That's a great question. I think we got to look at the data. For us here throughout this year, academic year, we haven't traced a specific case here that's been a positive. We haven't seen the transferal at all or transmission of the virus inside of our building. So one of the things that we can hang our hats on here at Leroy is that if a student has come in positive, most of the cases have been linked to the outside. In fact, all of them have been linked to the outside, and that's a positive as we try to move forward. One of the things that would be a big key would be getting it down to 3 feet. I think we could manage that on our buses to where we're at right now in our classrooms. And from school to school, it's different. Here with our Wilkett and our Trigon building, the elementary school, we have classrooms that are different sizes. So it's difficult to say one classroom may be able to come back and be able to go 6 feet, where other classrooms, if you had 15, 16 kids, maybe 19, it's difficult to spread out to be 6 feet. So the 3 feet would help. The big areas, cafeterias, your auditoriums, with your music programs and so on and so forth. And I think, that's something that would be a huge, huge help if that was released. And again, here's the major question is, who's going to make that call? We know the governor's office right now has stepped back away from that. Our local health departments are going to step back away from that. So is it going to be a local decision that we're going to be able to make that as a New York State Department of Health? And right now, this is sitting with the New York State Department of Health. The SCD has not wanted to get into public health issues from their end. So we're really relying on, Mr. Howard Zucker and the New York State Department of Health to tell us that they're going to lessen those requirements.
Thanks. So while you're speaking, a reader on Facebook popped in with a question. She said she just signed on. I think she saw the part where you discussed April 6th as the target date, and she wanted to know why it can't happen sooner.
Um, it can't happen sooner right now for a couple of reasons for us, and we would love to have it happen sooner. But the big thing is getting that social distancing, change from 6 feet. So that's the thing right now. That's a hang up for many schools. The second part for us is we're working on transitioning our classrooms this week. We were able to go remote in order to get a lot of our classroom furniture back in stage in our classrooms. We have still a little bit to go on that, but we're working toward, if that 6 feet guidance changed, we're getting ready to go. So I'm in the same sentiment with that parent. We want our kids back 5 days a week, and we need, again, a major push from our parents to hit our legislators and hit the New York State Department of Health that it's important to relax those guidelines of 6 feet.
Great. So let's hit this in a two-part question, kind of. Academically speaking, why do you think it's important to get all the students back in physical classrooms?
When you look at it, I think initially when it came out, the remote option was that kind of bridge in order to get us where we were looking to get to this point right now. What I mean by that is that it's really just a stopgap. There's no doubt, I think you look at any educator, they would totally agree that the best place for our kids is in front of our teachers, both from an academic standpoint, social, emotional. And I think that the time and the communication, the things that are missed on a Zoom that can happen in classroom, we could go through a laundry list of things. It's difficult to manage where kids are at, to formally assess on a Zoom call. When you're in there together, you can hit the pulse of the classroom when you're there. So I think that's the biggest part academically, is getting these kids back so the teacher has them in front of them to work and see how they're interacting together. It's much more difficult on a Zoom.
Are you getting any feedback from your teachers or staff that there are students falling behind because of the virtual learning?
Some of our students are flourishing in this system too, and I think it's going to open up an interesting question for schools looking ahead, as we've had some students that have taken this remote opportunity and they've done very well in it. So I think that we have to remember that we want our kids back, but we do have some students that have done well in that. But that's going to be the big question coming for all schools, is how do we assess where our students are at right now? I think that we're looking at data points from our Reading Through iReady, our other formative assessments in our classrooms to see where students are at. And I think we've been pleasantly surprised in the initial of gauging where that potential slide might be from COVID and missing time. I think what we've done is we have painted a picture back on, being more strategic in some of the things that we're covering. One big hurdle, Howard, that's coming up right now that's caused a little bit of angst amongst parents and teachers is the federal government following testing and keeping that going for grades 3 through 8 and accountability for some of the reading exams between math and ELA. And I think that is something that we're going to have to be very careful with our families and talk about, because I think there's going to be some nervousness that, hey, we've only been here half time in person or we're full remote and they're making us take exams. I think that we have to be comfortable and understand that this is going to be a data point and there should be no accountability toward teacher or student or schools on that, but it should be used as a data point to see where our kids are at and where they tested and shown. And I think that if we get that message out to our families and they understand that, I think that it makes that situation that's going to be tense and nervous for both teacher and student, I think we can lessen that for them.
Great. So Yvonne Fitzsimmons sent in a message saying, although it's been a major pain, that you've done a great job at keeping all the children learning. So I assume she's a parent out there happy with how things are going. And then another reader asks, are you going to allow kids that have excelled with remote learning to stay in remote learning?
So the answer is yes to that. And I think that was part of our plan from the get-go. And when we did our hybrid model, is we offered parent choice for their child. And that was real important back in July and August when we were planning for the reopening of school. And I look at that right now as something very similar to that. As we transition back to 5 days, there could be health issues in a home for a parent with a child going to school and bringing that back home. There could be health issues or concerns with the child themselves. And I think that we're looking at trying to figure out how we can best deliver. It may not be as seamless and perfect as it has been for us right now at our elementary, junior, senior high school. There might be some give in and take on that it won't be a perfect setup of that, but we want to keep that model in place as we're moving forward for those families for the rest of this year so that they do have that option.
Thank you. So earlier I said it was a two-part question. The second part, we talked about academically. Why is this important, kind of a social, emotional standpoint?
one of the things that I asked back to our families, and I've asked our legislators both at the Senate and Assembly level, and our parents and even our teachers here, is that you look at what we've done. Starting on February 1st, we brought our student athletes back 5 days a week, to actually really going 7 days for most of these sports because they're so compacted. And you think about that, that's been a huge boost to student morale. Is, students, we have to be cognizant and aware that extracurriculars are a huge draw for students to stay engaged in school. It's important for them. And I'm just excited to see our student athletes competing. Our musical is still going and planning, with a virtual event here in April. So we've kept those kind of going in a safe manner, but bringing those athletic students and student athletes back has opened the door to give us another data point to look at. If we can do this safely, why aren't we bringing our students back now 5 days a week? And that goes back to the state again. You've allowed us to do that with student athletes 7 days a week, to go to practice, sweat, compete all over, and then do it against other schools. Let's get back in the classroom with our students 5 days a week, and let's get rid of those requirements so we can do that safely.
It's my understanding there's only been a couple of teams in Genesee County that have had to go into quarantine, had to take a break from their season because of COVID, because of players or coaches being infected. So I'll let you kind of address that too, but I want to also work in just another question about sports, because you may know about this. This comes up in like our comments all the time. We publish the pictures of basketball games and the players are wearing their masks around their chin. What's the guidelines for the players? What should they really be doing, and how do you think all that's going?
There's definitely room for improvement with a mask. I know that the Livingston County Athletic Association, we've made a strong push, from our league standpoint. And I'm not going to sit here to say that we've been perfect here at Leroy or against playing other teams. Remember that the rule is that when you can't be 6 feet social distance, you wear the mask, and you wear the mask as much as you can tolerate on that. So you have to find the balance to that student athlete that's running up and down the floor to pull that mask down, give themselves a chance to catch their breath and get it back up. And that's from different from player to player. They have to be able to tolerate that and go. But I think that there's room for improvement on that. From at least our school and what I'm seeing on social media and games, I think it's different from region to region and league to league. I think other leagues that, back in the fall for soccer, I know that was a frustrating point for the LCAA, is that we were very stringent on wearing masks and other leagues weren't. But at the end of the day, when you look at, again, Howard, when they're out there competing and going, and talking with Paul Pettit before we started our season, the mask is there to just try to help be a deterrent from that. But again, when they're sweating, playing, competing in the close proximity of less than 6 feet, you asked the question earlier, we're going to cross seasons here in a little bit on March 1st, fall 2 season starting with football and volleyball. We're still trying to finish up our winter season here too. We're going to have student athletes that are going to be competing and then cross-pollinating with other players that they have been going. And I think it's going to be a good telltale sign that are we able to do this safely? And one of the ways, again, is improving on the mask and wearing them.
Well, be interesting. We want to see everybody stay safe. It'll be interesting to see how things play out. Right? And the thing about we got a guest appearance from the cat back there. It'll be interesting to see how what we learn from this process, because what people forget is this is a virus not like anything we've dealt with before, and scientists are still learning about transmission and that sort of thing. So I know you do a pretty good job of keeping your pulse on what's going on with the students. What kind of feedback are you getting? What do the students want?
They're excited to see. You got to think about it for them, Howard, too. If you're a Jello student for us on Monday, Tuesday, I dealt with it at home with my fourth grader. Some of her good friends are on the Thursday, Friday days. And I think what that does is by getting kids back 5 days, now they have the ability, and outside of the remote Wednesdays where they were getting together in their Zooms, now they have a chance to get together and see each other in the classrooms and doing that. So I think there's excitement. There's excitement amongst our teachers. And I think our teachers, like anything else, they want to make sure that we're doing things safe. I couldn't agree with them more. And again, I go back to our data, and going back to the question you asked before, COVID has not left our region and it has not left our area. It doesn't take time off on weekends. We have to keep our guard high on that still too, following the things that we have and put in place that have worked. But I think there's excitement amongst our parents, number one, and our students and our teachers about wanting to come back full time with that, but doing it safely and making sure we're doing that, because the last thing we want to do is get back full time and have an outbreak that we start to lose control over. I think that's always a worry, is that, okay, if we're going to congregate a little bit closer, more kids coming back, we want to make sure that the hand sanitizing, wearing the mask, the cleaning protocols that we have in place, we still don't throw them out the window. Don't let your guard down. I think if we do that, we can do it safely by coming back.
I think I asked you a question about along these lines at the start of the pandemic. What's your sense to the degree that the kids get it? This is important.
It is, and I think that for some of them, we're all, when we get into our personal space, right, then we realize how important it is, and the things that are important to us, when we miss them, then we realize how important they really are. And I think our kids have seen that right now with shortened seasons, but getting a chance to compete and do stuff. When I talk about athletics, going to musical and things like that, marching band, it hasn't been the normal setup for them, but I think they understand that we got to work together in order to get those things back, because they are important to kids in getting back into school.
You raise another good point. I know how much the annual musical means to the students and staff out there. What's the plan for this year?
Yeah, we're looking at early April here for a virtual musical. Jackie McLean came to me right in the early fall. Merritt, we want to move ahead. It's important to our program, and we have the ability to, if things opened up later on, we could put this together and do it out live if we need to. We knew that the school year was going on, that was going to be tougher in their planning. They're working hard right now, starting to film certain parts of it to kind of put this together into a virtual setup that we're excited. We did that with our 6th grade musical back in the early fall down here at the Wilkett Street School, and it was a huge success. Music department's done that with their concerts and done them virtually. We're hoping that here in the spring we can get outside with our concerts and be outside with that in our arts and music night too, that we run in May and June, that we can get outside for those too, and then we can have more people and parents show up because we're outside. But those things are moving forward, and we're lucky to have a dedicated group of teachers that just didn't say, we got this, we have COVID, we don't want to do. They were all in and found a different way to deliver it for our kids.
So we've touched on sports and arts, and always loved the arts program you guys have out there in the spring. Been out there, as you know, a few times to cover it. But there's academic extracurricular activities too, such as, say, the debate team, right?
We were the winners this year with Scholastic Bowl and competition of that. We have our chess club going. We have our Pride and Allies group that's been going all year long too. So again, we've struck the right balance of doing this safely through either Zoom meetings or small group, individual cohort groups to get kids together. And the chess is interesting too, the chess club, because they've been competing virtually, which was a great option for us too. And again, we found ways, to do that. And I'm just excited for our kids that we were able to do that. And, a lot of our organizations through BOCES was able to help us through that too.
That's great. So let's, I don't have anything in front of me right now about the capital project. Tell us about what's going on with that.
We're super excited. We thank the support of our community. We have a $12 million asset preservation project that's going to be turned into state ed. We're looking over the next 2 years to protect these beautiful buildings that we have. We know that the one here at the Wilkett, between Wilkett and Trigon, are our older buildings, the staple of our community here. And I think that we're excited that we're able to keep these buildings from the roof standpoint, from our parapets to our windows, to our parking lot area. At the junior senior high, we're looking at a roof and the ability to change out some of our lighting inside of our auditorium that was, original in 2003. Some of the lighting and the light board that we have right now is not working. They don't make some of the lights anymore. They're moving more obviously to the LED. Some of the canister lights are no longer available to get when they break. So this is exciting for our kids that we're able to keep our buildings going. I'm not going to lie to you, Howard. We wish that we could have gotten one of our turf fields through, because I think that you're going to see that here during our football season. It's going to start with our first home game on March 19th. And you look out right now, and there's a lot of white stuff still on the ground. And I think that down the road, I wish we would have had that, but I understand that the community didn't feel the same way. But we're able to preserve our buildings, and I think that's terribly important, that we keep them safe and ready for our students to learn in.
I appreciate what you're saying about the, I appreciate everything that goes into having a natural turf or artificial turf field. I will say, as a photographer, football in the mud could be, you get some great photos from that.
You do.
So, Merritt, is there anything else we didn't touch on that you want to make sure the community knows about?
No, I think, Howard, from your advocacy that you've done for the Batavian and our parents, we need to continue to push and get back to school. We have not seen the transmission rates happen in our school. The argument would be, well, geez, if you bring more kids together, you're gonna have a chance for that to happen. We can do things safely. We've shown that through our athletics. We understand that COVID has not left our area, but any advocacy from our families and that to try to get back. We need our students back in school 5 days a week, and it's terribly important that we do that. And I think we're all on the same page of that. So we just got to get past these requirements that are holding us up right now.
That's great. Well, we had a good audience for this interview. I appreciate your time. So hopefully people are, listening and taking that to heart. And, we do know elected officials and other officials will listen if the community speaks up. So I appreciate that, Merritt. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Howard, and thanks for all you do for our schools, too.
Right. Thank you very much. So this is Howard Owens, publisher of the Batavian, our last live stream interview of the week. I hope you all have a great weekend.